Wisdom, the final frontier to true knowledge. Welcome to Wisdom Trek, where our mission is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. Hello, my friend. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, your captain on our journey to increase wisdom and create a living legacy. Thank you for joining us today as we explore wisdom on our second millennium of podcast. This is day 1356 of our trek, and it is time for Worldview Wednesday. Creating a biblical worldview is essential to have a proper understanding on today's current events. To establish a biblical worldview, you need to have a proper understanding of God and His Word. Our focus for these next several months on Worldview Wednesday is mastering the Bible through a series of brief insights. These insights are extracted from a book by the same title from one of today's most prominent Hebrew scholars, Dr. Micheal S. Heiser. The book is a collection of insights designed to help you to understand the Bible better. When we let the Bible be what it is, we can understand it as the original readers did and as the original writers intended. Each week we will explore two additional insights. Today we'll be looking at mastering the Bible, understanding Hebrew poetry, and also in Job. So insight number 51 is, understanding Hebrew poetry is essential for interpreting Psalms and Proverbs. When you and I encounter the word poetry, we immediately think of something that is read, sung, or listened to that rhymes. If we have studied poetry academically, we'd learned that there was a lot more to poetry as we know it, but rhyming is our most familiar experience with that concept. Because we think that poetry is that way, it is hard for us to see why Psalms, Proverbs, and the other portions of the Bibles that are classified as poetry. Like English, a line of Hebrew poetry is broken down into smaller units called a kola. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. It is a complete line made up of two parts, or two kola. That's really where the similarity ends. The fundamental difference in Hebrew poetry is what we think of with respect to the term that Hebrew poetry doesn't rhyme in sound, it rhymes in thought. The concept of thought rhyming is called parallelism. In its simplest terms, a line of Hebrew poetry, such as Psalm chapter 2 verse 4, can begin with a kola, the one who rules the heavens laughs, which is followed by another kola which expresses similar thought, the Lord scoffs at them. The relationship between the two kola is the important item for interpretation. The second kola corresponds with the first in some way. The second element advances the thought of the first. There's a symmetrical relationship in the thought expressed. This thought rhyming can be accomplished in a variety of ways. Sometimes kola 2 is virtually synonymous with kola 1. Perhaps only the vocabulary varies. The example of Psalm chapter 2 verse 4 above fits this description. Sometimes a series of kola will build to a climatic conclusion. On other occasions, the second kola expresses the thought of the first in an inverted way. For example, Psalm chapter 1 verse 6 says, kola 1, for the Lord watches over the path of the godly, kola 2, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction. The two thoughts here are consistent with each other, but they are like two sides of a coin. By definition, the wicked leads to destruction. That fate will not befall the righteous. Grasping the range of possible thought rhyme strategies used in Psalms and Proverbs takes time, close reading, and careful thought. Study Bibles and other books help to provide brief introductions to these techniques with examples. Making an effort to learn about parallelism will provide insight into your reading of those books and help you to avoid drawing poor conclusions about interpretation. Let's move on to Insight 52. The book of Job is not primarily about suffering. The Satan, or Satan, which is also referred to as the adversary in Job, is a title or position and is a member of God's divine court. This is not the devil of the New Testament. When this divine figure reported to God in Job 1, God asked him, "Where have you come from?" The Satan reported that, "I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on." Job chapter 1 verse 7. So the Satan's job was to see if people were obedient to God or not. God took the occasion of this report to brag on Job. God asked the Satan in Job chapter 1 verse 8, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. The adversary's answer sets the rest of the book in motion, and with it the famous sufferings of Job. The adversary has an axe to grind and gets uppity. He challenges God's reading of the situation. Yes, but Job has a good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Job chapter 1, verses 9 through 11. In essence, the adversary challenges God's omniscience and authority. In essence, the Satan implies that God doesn't really know Job, and since he doesn't, he has no right to praise him. This is a challenge that God cannot let pass. God cannot destroy the adversary for his arrogance. That would only eliminate the accuser and not answer the challenge. God's reputation needs vindication. That is what the book of Job is really about. The book of Job devotes a lot of space to presenting and evaluating a range of human responses to why Job is suffering and, ultimately, why the righteous suffer. The book doesn't offer a resolution to the last question. The answer comes in the appearance of God in a whirlwind. Job sees clearly that he is not God and has to be silent. But consider the book's conclusion. Job did not sin in his suffering. He does not curse God. In other words, his character shows that God was correct and the adversary was wrong. Job is therefore rewarded abundantly by God in Job chapter 42, verses 10 through 17. Although readers don't get an answer to why the righteous suffer, they know that, at least in this case, it was to vindicate God. He does see, and he is sovereign. Like Job, we must trust God is good and knows what he is doing. And that will conclude this week's lesson on another 2 insights from Dr. Heiser's book, Mastering the Bible. Next Worldview Wednesday, we will continue with our 2 additional insights. I believe that you'll find each Worldview Wednesday an interesting topic to consider as we build our biblical worldview. Tomorrow we will continue with our 3-minute humor nugget that will provide you with a bit of cheer, which will help you to lighten up and live a rich and satisfying life. So encourage your friends and family to join us and then come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. If you'd like to listen to any of the past 1,355 treks or read the Wisdom Journals, they are all available at wisdom-trek.com. And I encourage you to subscribe to Wisdom Trek on your favorite podcast player so that each day's trek will be downloaded to you automatically. And thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, but most important, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal each day. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and then leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you tomorrow.